Sup, bros? It's me again, Terry. I'm a bull, and I have a treat for you, bros, today. I know I'm in the middle of working on my reading that book, Man Up, which I am going to be doing a chapter by chapter run through and criticism of, and I'm also, but I couldn't help but look at this thing that I found. It's pure feminist gold. It's over a year old, but I had to share this. I The way I found it, I mean, just look at this title. It's beautiful. Bird enthusiast, enforcer of the patriarchy. Yes, this is pure feminist gold right here, bros. I have to but yeah, I found this because I was doodling earlier, and I showed I doodled a picture of a dog and a bird, and the bird said "I dare you" to the dog, and it had a little bit of a cubic perspective practice underneath the dog, and I showed it to one of my bros, and she was like, "Is that like a god dog and bird arguing whether or not they should destroy a tent?" I'm like, "No, that's not supposed to be there." And she's like, "It looks like they're arguing, thinking about destroying that tent." And like, more like smashing that tent. And I'm like, more like smashing the patriarchy. And so it just popped in my head. I wonder if there is a feminist group out there called Birds Against Patriarchy. So I did a search, and while I didn't find one, I was too dumbfounded by the articles that come up to actually do more than a cursory, less than one page scroll through of the first page of the results. And I found this, and as well as actually a bunch of feminist reviews of the birds, which I actually might look into. Um, but that's not what we're looking at today. Today we are looking at this article, which it is by Grace Perry, and as you can see, she lists herself as a contributor plus sketch comedy, which might lead you to think that this is satire. In fact, one bro that I shared this article with said, "You know, this is satire, right?" To which I actually did my research and read her other contributions to Medium, which I thought, okay, she had one article on the entire Pulse incident. It was talking about how gay bars are sacred spaces, and it had the exact same tone and flippancy as this did, as well as did her other articles. So while I am sure some of these parts of this are meant to be total comedy, and I'm pretty sure I can figure out which ones those are because they totally fail. But her points are, I believe, meant to be taken totally seriously. Well, maybe not her hatred of birds, but the other things, and I'll get into why as I go through this. So let's hold on to your hats, bros. You will probably lose them. Okay. Nothing says machismo like a lone man eyeing waterfowl in a forest reserve. Like I needed to even tell you that. The birdwatcher sees himself as a modern-day cowboy, and as an old-timey cowboy, honestly. A rough renegade, an insider, an enlightened loner who thinks he gets something that the rest of us cannot possibly understand. I eagerly await the release of Brokeback Birder. But since birding is a relentless vehicle of the patriarchy, Brokeback Birder will never happen. Birding, you see, is all about power. So you can see what got me to want to finish reading this, bros. Um, Obviously the Brokeback Birder was the joke. Um, but yeah, no. If you know anything about birding, and no, I'm not a birder myself, but I have met some, and actually the majority of them are female. So I guess they have a internalized misogyny, or what have you. The birder is high with power in his birding element. When he walks through the forest, his ears become eyes. He strokes his binoculars the size of a house cat and listens. And what the fuck, bro? No one has binoculars the size of a house cat. You don't even need binoculars to go birding. I mean, you need the most basic of binoculars. I mean, you might want some cameras, high-speed cameras and recording equipment to get good pictures, maybe, but No, most bird watchers don't go through that much effort. Only those that work for like National Geographic and animal magazines uh, would even think about going as far as high-speed cameras and it's stuff. But I'm digressing. But no, no one uses binoculars the size of a house cat, unless you're talking about the size of a house kitten, in which case you might be right. But no. And white-throated sparrow, indigo bunting, orchard oriole. He's identifying the birds from their song. Would be pretty cool if birds weren't disgusting, freakish creatures that inherited the only lame traits from the dinosaur forefathers: bone structure, laying eggs, gizzard stones. But the bird is too bigoted to realize that. He relishes his identification skills because here in these woods, no one can tell him he's wrong. That's a yellow-throated warbler. Nike takes yellow-throated warbler off his checklist. It's a fact. No one can dispute me, he cackles to himself and daydreams of slut-shaming his ex-wife. Yeah, um, her problem with bird watching is that it's objective and he can actually be right. The male bigoted bird watcher can be right about something. It's his one bastion of being right. And of course, she has to drive home the bigotedness by having him thinking of slut shaming his wife out of nowhere, because looking at birds does that to you, I guess. Not a good joke. I feel I'm insulting my reader by having to outline the reason birds are terrible, but here they are. Birds smell terrible. They have tiny brains. They poop relentlessly. They don't super care about their young. See, tiny brains. Feathers may look pretty, but always remember they are filthy oil sticks. Honestly, if I had hollow bones, I could do most, if not all, things that birds can do. Flying is just riding thermals. It's not that deep. Tell that to an airplane pilot, bro. Birds have to do what an airplane pilot does with their own arms, essentially, and it is quite deep. But not that you would know about any of that because you are a sketch comedian who can barely write a fucking joke. I mean, you don't get me wrong. I can tell that some of these are supposed to be jokes, but she's doing every single thing a fucking feminist is expected to put in. There has to be some sort of, oh my gosh, slut shaming. She's going through all of the intersectional check marks of what bigoted men could be possibly thinking of when doing something this fucking innocuous. It's I mean yeah, flying is just riding thermals. It's not that deep. Oh yeah, yeah. Pilot school is not a thing at all for humans, and it's not like birds fall from trees when they're learning how to fly at all. No, no, not deep at all. And I don't think she knows what riding thermals is. Gliding, not flying. You do that with hang gliding, and you can do that with hang gliding. But no, there's a lot of very minute wing movements involved. If you even look more than skin deep on how birds fly, I mean, you don't even have to look at birds. You can, like I said, you can look at airplanes and that to see how complex flying is. And birds have to learn to do that instinctually. The sport of birdwatching is as such. A hateful misogynist goes outside, looks at birds, and says, "That is XYZ bird." That's it. It's an identification game. Dumb, right? It's the repetition of a question with one correct answer. Birdwatching gives dicky men a safe haven where they can just be right. Because, unlike those things of substance in life, the question, what kind of bird is that, is simple. It has a simple, attainable answer. And who loves objective reasoning more than oppressors? No one. No one at all. This is an undisputed fact. Seriously, bro? No one but oppressors likes objective reasoning? No one at all? No one at all goes through life looking at actual facts and looks at does their best to see genuine reality and make their decisions based off of that? Bird watching is one of the only things that can be you can use objective reality, and therefore it is passe, useless, a waste of time because it is nothing of substance. And you writing articles like this is, I assume? Yes? No? You're not going to actually dig into that jab at objective reality? if we're gonna get into an identification game, bro, intersectionality is nothing but an identification game, except instead of looking at birds and saying, hey, that's a whatever, 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 you're saying, oh, that person's non-binary, that person's a person of color and gay, so I need to treat them this way. That person's a cisexual white female, so she is more oppressed than that cisexual white male over there. And oh my gosh, is that a transsexual lesbian Muslim? Oh my gosh, she's so precious. Yeah, no. You don't get to criticize birding as a identification game when intersectionality is nothing but looking at different, given not necessarily readily apparent features in people and judging them based off of that, and is, okay, admittedly a whole lot less objective because once you get into genderqueer and non-binary, you're treading into a whole quagmire of relativity, and especially if you're going on the entire basing these things off of individual experiences instead of the objective facts that you abhor so much. So where does all my insider knowledge come from? The internet? The fact that bird watching is probably the easiest hobby you can pick up just by looking out your window and watching birds, and maybe wanting to buy a pair of binoculars to be able to see them better? Seriously, bird watching is only slightly easier than learning how to play with the yo-yo. It's seriously, it's not hard unless you want to get into the, it really doesn't require that much skill. It is, if you want to get into the deep things about learning how to identify based off of bird songs, then it's just an exercise in memorization. It's really not hard. So I think I learned about birding from watching nature documentaries. It's really not that hard. I went to a lot of nature camps as a kid. What can I say? I love nature. For many years, I attended a marine science summer camp called the Whale Camp. Brilliant marketing, honestly. But unfortunately, wherever there are whales, there too are birds. Except out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean where there are no islands for the birds to... Yeah, no. No, that one falls through also. But, objective reasoning spoils everything. And it was at whale camp that I first encountered the reprehensible institution of bird watching. Each year there was always one counselor who was unofficially deemed the bird guy. David, Brendan, Mike. Inexplicably, the bird guy was always the cool counselor. Always young, hunky nature dudes with scruffy beards who lived for birds. Classic sexist bird hunk. Such a cliche, I know. You get it. It you want to know why the cool counselors are the younger, scruffy, bearded guy bros? It's because, well, there's this thing called they are much more easily able to relate to younger children. They are younger, they are able to handle, and therefore prove themselves worthy of friendship and adulation to the young mind. Seriously, it's not that hard. It's not that complicated. It's these bros are the way there because they can work with kids well. And kids are usually very easily impressed by obscure skills like being able to identify birds, especially if they're into birds in the first place or nature in the first place. But we'll get into the entire reason for this entire piece in just 1 second. The ritual happened each summer. Bird Guy would waltz over to some dorky 11-year-old boy and say, "Hey kid, check out that greater shearwater. Isn't abortion the worst?" I'm pretty sure that's what they said. No, it's not. And the reason why your comedy fails is because you're going through every single one of the feminist preachiness cheer checklist things and inserting them where in the most absurd places. And I get that's supposed to be the joke. No, they're not really saying it, but really, you would expect them to, but it's not absurd enough to be funny because in the feminist worldview, feminist humor totally 100% banks on men being misogynist. It's predictable. It's not funny. It's dumb. Maybe Bird Guy saw some of himself in the tween. Maybe he spotted a weakling and preyed like a black-backed gull on a baby puffin. Who really cares about how men feel? And this is where we see the problem. This is why feminism is losing supporters, bro. You're blaming men for everything. You're saying men are totally not trustworthy, and therefore, anytime they don't accept you as the gleaming goddesses that you portray yourself as, they're just being misogynist because it's nothing that you've done. You don't do anything wrong. You're not insulting them to their face about their very core of their being and then saying they need to change everything about themselves. And when they try and ultimately fail because of your very nebulous terms of what toxic masculinity even is, oh my gosh, they're being misogynist because they don't. Yeah, no, this is the reason why feminism is not popular with men, and it's not because they don't support women's rights. Anyways, they bond over their migration patterns and feeding habits and the other bullshit ways birds spend their days. The kid was an easy convert. As a girl, I was actively excluded from this male bonding ritual. Well, maybe because it's a male bonding ritual and you're a girl? Maybe? On the occasion that I'd say, "Hey there, isn't that a black guillemot?" Bird guy would say, "That's all good and nice, honey, but leave the bird identification to the big, strong men." "Yeah," Sugar Tits chirped in his tween apprentice. "How about you be good and wipe off the real birders' binocular lenses?" Bird guy would shed a tear. He taught his tween well, and I wiped off those lenses because, well, internalized misogyny is hard. The patriarchy has sneaky, slippery agents. Ladies, never fall for a bird guy, no matter his level of punctum, unless you seek a depraved life filled with Audubon guides in lieu of cunnilingus. Now, here is the key part of that entire last segment was the key to the entire point of this entire thing was to complain about the hunky counselor that wouldn't let her learn about birds with him. And she is not wrong for assuming that he did not take her on as his apprentice, quote unquote, because she is a girl. She's 100% right that he did that. But not for the reason that she thinks. You see, birdwatching usually is done is usually a solitary thing, obviously. The more people, the more apt birds are to talk with each other. So it usually ends up going off into a remote place and watching birds because you'll find the most birds in remote places. So when Cool Nature Bro wants to choose someone to do that with, are they going to choose a boy or a girl? Well, bro, I don't see how you didn't realize this writing this as an adult, Grace Bro. You see, feminism has ingrained this internal fear of men into society, especially grown men around prepubescent girls or younger girls in general. Do you think for 1 second that he is going to go out into the woods or into a quiet spot on the beach with a young girl to watch birds? For 1 second, do you honestly think he's going to want to do that? Because in the event that anyone even hinted that any impropriety happened, he could lose his job. If he has a family, they're probably going to leave him even if he is proven innocent of the matter, and he's going to be hard pressed to find a job again because he has a or a sexual infraction accusation leveled on him. And whether or not he's innocent or proven innocent or ruled as innocent doesn't matter because, hey, someone will just say, that's on his record. He wasn't convicted, but he was on his record. So no, he is not going to take a young girl out to a remote spot on the beach or whatever, wherever you were. No, he's not going to choose you. And Just because you wanted to spend time with the hunky camp counselor and he didn't choose you does not mean he's a misogynist. In fact, your brand of feminism is the entire reason why he didn't feel comfortable doing that. And you're projecting a lot. The more into Birds the tween gets, the more he sees himself as an outsider, as a victim. As we all know what happens when straight white male nerds feel like victims. Terrible things. Silicon Valley thrives. Silicon Valley thriving enables you to write this article on the website you're currently using. If not for Silicon Valley, you would not have probably the iPhone that you wrote this on, or the laptop that you wrote this on, or any of the cool, modern, trendy devices that you could possibly written this on. Big Bang Theory gets written and renewed. The young boy curls up with his Sibley guide to North American birds, feeling guarded and powerful in their access to avian knowledge. But joke's on him, because even at the tender age of 11, I already knew that birds were fucking dumb. If you didn't want to watch birds with them for the sake of watching birds, why did you care that he turned you down? Is it because you wanted something else? I mentioned whale camp. Let it known that I love whales with my whole heart. I'm not above loving animals more than humans. Whales are graceful, remarkable creatures with an emotional depth rivaled only by elephants and some Fleetwood Mac songs. Birds, on the other hand, are beaked filth bombs spiraling through our skies because birding viciously enforces patriarchal oppressions. White men say birds are good, and we all must oblige. No, there's plenty of white men that don't like birds. Plenty of them. Most importantly, men absolutely love that male birds have more flamboyant plumage than female birds. It's to attract a mate, the macho birder says. Donned in cargo shorts and Audubon Society button-up, he bought at a charity auction for sick birds. Darwinism is on his side, he said. Males are better than females, as an objective statement. He loves saying those precious 5 words, and in the context of peacocks and their very pretty feathers, he finally can. You can't really argue against male peacock feathers, after all. Actually, and I mean that with a full stereotypical man, actually, as I can get, there is actually a huge evolutionary downside to having brightly colored feathers. You can be a bird can be easily picked out in the wilderness in the green backdrops or green and brown backdrops, unlike the females that blend in with their surroundings in order to hide them and their chicks. And also, it actually having a tail like that actually shortens the peacock's lifespan. So, and any birder worth his salt who actually cares about birds and knows about them will actually know this type of a thing. So, you obviously don't have that much insider knowledge. Oh, right, you stopped caring about birding at age 11. With pervish admiration of male plumage, the birder whispers alone in the forest, "Males are better than females. Defund planned parenthood. Is that a wood duck? Yes. Yes, it is. Maybe women are so angry these days because they're ignoring their call to womanhood. Blue jay, yes." And so forth. And since birders love their irrefutable fact caveats, the board of the Audubon Society is overwhelmingly white, apart from the diversity chair. Classic. Wikipedia lists the world's top 28 birders. 2 of them are women. Fidel Castro and Jonathan Franzen are birders. There's nothing left to say. I thought you were the type of person who actually liked Fidel Castro, bro. But yeah, that was a piece of pure feminist gold that I discovered from a fun conversation about art. And yeah, I still can't grasp. Yes, I understand that some of it was supposed to be funny, and it fails on every level because it's just exactly what you would expect from feminist comedy. Oh my gosh, look at men. They're stupid. Every single thing they do is rooted in misogyny, even things as dull as birdwatching, misogyny, and she can come and comment all she wants about how this entire thing was not meant to be taken seriously. And to that, I have to say, I've read your other stuff on Medium, and including the stuff that I'm assuming that you wanted to be taken seriously, like the Pulse article. And they're all exactly like this. So you are either the most adept with subtle tinges of humor ever, or you're not funny. I mean, I genuinely thought the Pulse article was going to be a lot more serious than it was, considering it was about the Pulse shooting and how nightclubs or gay clubs or sacred and everything. But whatever floats your boat, bro. But yeah, I just had to share that with you, bros. I hope you all enjoyed it. I'm going to be getting my series on that Man Up book up sometime soon. And let me know what you think of this and all my other videos. Comment down below. I am also on Minds, Twitter, and Gab. So hit me up there if you want to talk to me. So let me know what you'd like me to talk about. I'm trying to gear the channel a little bit less from reacting to feminism to talking more about masculinity, hence my series on that book. And that's really what I wanted to talk about from the beginning. And it's just honestly, it takes a lot. It's taking a lot more work to learn about that subject to be able to talk about it. So that's why I'm doing some more of the reactionary stuff that I am now. So, bros, yeah, hit me up on all those places, and yeah, peace, love, Tao, roast.